Yo, what's going on, guys? We have the meta snapshot for patch 11.23b. There was a B patch, and it changed things up like quite a bit, actually. In case you guys didn't know, a lot of people are playing Katarina right now. We'll get into how to play that along with every other comp. In the S tier, we have Assassins, like mainly the Katarina build, Arcanists. Arcanists, I feel like, are one of the strongest counters to that build. And then after that, we have Snipers, Yone, Chemtech, Urgot, and then the new comp we have is the Trundle Reroll. I played this a bunch before when I got like featherweights and stuff, but right now it actually is like a real comp that you can go more often than you would think. So next up in the A tier we have Samira, Mutant Malzahar, Innovator, and Protector Reroll. So we have a lot in the S and A tier right now because I feel like they're all pretty close in power, apart from Katarina. Katarina might be like in S+, but the reason behind that is, again, like the augments that we've been playing with in the past couple of weeks, and the fact that a lot of these compositions, they're almost all like really item dependent. We'll get into that in just a little bit though. So in the B tier, we have Misfortune Reroll, Syndicate, Yordles, and the like another Yordle comp, the Tristana Reroll comp. And then I moved down Sion to the C tier. It just doesn't have the same power anymore. Like the one trick that I knew, or like most of the one tricks that I knew that only played Sion, even the people who played Sion before it was cool, they don't play it anymore. So it's like, just don't go that comp unless somehow you magically hit a Sion 3, because Sion 3 still wins games, but you're just never going to get there. I do want to let you guys know, if you guys are doing like shopping for the holidays, go ahead and check out my Amazon storefront, because even though you don't purchase an item in the actual storefront, because right now it just has my like gear and stuff like that, I still get like a small affiliate bonus if you click on the link and then like type whatever you're actually going to buy into the search bar. So if you guys want to support the channel and you guys are going to be buying something anyways, I would appreciate it. I figure it's kind of like a free way for people to support if they're going to be buying something anyways. But very short thing, let's just go back into the tier list. So on to how to play every single comp. Let's start out first with Katarina. So items are the most important things on her. i.e. Ionic Spark, that's probably the two best items on her. After that, I prefer Hand of Justice. It's not super required, but it is the best healing item. If you do not have healing augments, you could go for a third damage item, but Hextech Gunblade also does decently. One positioning trick of this build that you should be aware of is you want Blitzcrank and Talon to be on opposite sides. The reason why you want that is because Talon jumps to the back, autos someone, like the person in the corner, and then Blitz pulls that target. So Talon applies his bleed to that target, and then since he's pulled away, he attacks a different target. So he applies his bleed again. So you just get a lot of value from that exchange. After that, you want to have your Echo jumping in with the rest of your assassins. You could play like Frozen Heart Echo, Morello Echo, that's really good on him. And then Shaco, he's just there for more assassins. 6 assassins is the best version of this build, but sometimes you don't hit a Kali early game, and sometimes you don't hit the Assassin Spatulas either. So you could play like any combination of Academy and Assassins, but lean more towards the Assassins. So one thing to note is that this is a slow roll comp, so you want to slow roll for Katarina at level 6. However, you don't always have to slow roll. What you can do instead is reach level 6 on stage 3-2 after like a lose streak start, for example, and then level up to 6 and then roll down until you hit Cat 2. After that, you're chilling. So you could go below 50 gold in order to hit Cat 2, just because it will allow you to win the entirety of Stage 3 and most of Stage 4, and sometimes even parts of Stage 5. So that's why you want to roll more at that point, and then econ back up to 50. If you get a bunch of natural Katarinas, you could go for Katarina 3-star. If not, you go for level 9 and go for some legendaries. Akali 2-star is like another way to win with this comp. So on to the next build, we have the Arcanist Lux build. This is like the Chinese build from before, if you guys are familiar with that. I believe we featured this a couple of times. So you want to do like a standard leveling pattern, but we also borrow some things that we took from here. So what you can do actually is do the same thing, level up to level 6 on stage 3-2, and then roll down for Vex 2-star. And then after that, you level up to level 7, and then you slow roll for Vex 3 if you get a lot of copies of Vex. But if you are contested, you go level 8, get Lux 2, use her as your primary carry. Item holder for this composition is Twisted Fate and Malzahar. They could do a lot of work on this early. And if you get a good Malzahar, and if you get a good mutant trait on a particular map, when you are going for an Arcanist build, you could always switch into carry Malzahar, which is a pretty viable option as well. Enchanters are really good in this meta right now because there's a lot of magic damage, and also the units are all pretty decent. We have Taric, Janna, and Lulu. They're all solid units for this build. And then your carry is going to be Lux, IE, JG, blue buff is the best in slot, but you want to prioritize tank items on Vex. So make sure you get a Bramble Vest, because that is why we are playing this comp. It is to counter the Katarinas, and Bramble Vest does exactly that. Other items you can build on Vex, other than what you see here, are like Warmogs, Titan's Resolve, and ZZ Rot Portal. ZZ Rot's good if you have a lot of bows, because bows are pretty useless in an ability power comp, so you just use the belt to make a ZZ Rot Portal. It's like a worst case scenario, you know? You could go into the 8 Arcanist build if you get to the super late game, but right now I've been finding that the games end really, really quickly because of all the Katarina players, so you don't actually end up going for this build, but maybe in different metas we are able to do that. Let's get on into the next build. We have Sniper Jhin. He is like in a weird spot, so theoretically, assassins counter snipers. Why is that? Well, they're in the back line, assassins jump to the back line, and they do a ton of damage. This is why we do not play like the 6 sniper build that we did in the first week of the set. That is probably the highest damage build, but we're just not allowed to do that because everyone's playing assassins right now. So we switched to 2 sniper and then added in like better backline units. We have like Orianna, Janna, Taric in the backline. And the reason behind that is because we want to protect our Jhin, and sometimes Jhin actually just kills the Katarina before she gets onto him. And the way you do that is corner him. You want to make sure you have a trap claw so you don't get blitz hooked. And then Jhin, I mean, he still does a great deal amount of damage, and Cat's pretty squishy, so sometimes he just kills all the Katarinas before she's able to do a lot of damage. So it isn't a good matchup, but like there are some fights where you win just because Jhin is Jhin. But yeah, pretty solid comp against everything else. Great against innovators. Great against pretty much anything that has like strong front lines. Jin's good against. So yeah, he's just going to be doing fine and dandy against like pretty much every other comp. After that, we have the Yone Fiora nonsense. It's really just Yone. Forget about Fiora. Go for like 6 challengers, 6 academy. Either or is good. Probably lean in more towards the challenger build. I have the Academy build up right now because I was too lazy to change it, but you guys know what the build is. We went over it a different week. So if you guys get like a lot of bows in your games, or you get like a Quicksilver Sash or something like that, or a GA, like go for the Yone comp, put the items on him. Like you need the Runons and then like 1 defensive item and then a 3rd item. It really doesn't matter what it is. He uses pretty much anything, and he is really good against the Arcanist builds I found. So yeah, pretty solid there. Onto the next build, we have the Urgot build. This is just a classic Bruiser Chemtech. We've been playing this for a lot, just because it's been one of the most consistent comps throughout the set so far. So what you want to do is start Bruisers. You go like Alawi plus Vi or Trundle. Use Trundle as your item holder. Alawi as your item holder for your tank items, and then transition into like maybe Twin Shot. Maybe you get a Gangplank. You could use him. Maybe he farms you a little extra gold from his ability, and then you transfer the items onto Urgot once you get him. Runons is the most important item in this comp, so you could flex between the Yone build and the Urgot build with the Runons, and then your late game is going to be Tahm Kench and Jinx. Super powerhouse legendary. So you got a lot of options for legendaries in the late game, which is really great. Not a lot of comps have that, because in this comp, every legendary really complements a team a ton. Whereas other comps, sometimes they just run a random legendary, and like it's just a best of like the late game that they can do. But like even Jace is really strong here because he gives us Enforcer, and he's just like a really good tank. Or you could even use him as a damage dealer if you're lacking in that department. But yeah, pretty easy comp to play for the power you get. Onto the next build, we have the Bruiser Trundle build. This is a new build, so this is a reroll comp, and you want to just go for a Trundle 3-star carry. He counters a lot of comps in this meta, because he steals attack damage. So anyone that's really reliant on that, he is going to destroy. The way we play this comp is we want to do a reroll for Trundle and Vi at level 6 for 3-star versions of them. So you just go to level 6 whenever you can, stay above 50 gold, and then just roll down to 50 every turn, trying to pick up the units you see here. But there are a lot of different versions of this build. Right now we have the 4 Bruiser, 4 Scrap version. There's a 6 Scrap version. There's one that only runs like 2 to 4 Bruisers, and then they run like some of the Scholars because you want to play Yuumi and stuff instead. Lots of other builds with like random legendaries that you could throw in here, but as a base, like I put the core down here. It is just Trundle, Vi, and Echo, and then you just add literally anything else you want to your comp, and you are going to be doing fine as long as you have Trundle 3-star. For Echo items, I like having a Morello on him because he affects a big AoE, And having like a Frozen Heart's pretty decent on him as well if you have extra items. So on to the next build, we are looking at the Samira reroll build. This is another reroll build. You go to 6 for Talon and Swain 3-star. Talon's a little hard to get right now because of all the Katarina players taking him. So you don't do the slow roll at 6 that often anymore. You really just want to prioritize Samira 3-star just because she is a beast. Assassin Spatula on Samira works really well too because it's probably best in slot Samira is Last Whisper, i.e. Assassin Spatula, but we don't always get that. So third item after Last Whisper, i.e. can just be any sort of damage item that you can get your hands on. Let's go on to the next build because this one's pretty easy to play. We have the Mutant Malzahar build. Lots of different options here. Honestly, like most of the mutant buffs I found to be actually playable. I've even made like Cybernetic work a bunch if I go like Kogmaw carry. And the reason behind that is because like the units are just all decently solid, except for Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath can like go to hell. I hate him. He's just really weak sometimes, but the games you get Cho'Gath 3, he like solo carries. It's crazy. But personally, I like going for Malzahar carry the most and then doing a slow roll for Malzahar 3, Cho'Gath 3. If I don't get a lot of Cho'Gaths, I just drop him out of my comp, run Mundo and other units instead as like my front line, and just go from there and just stick with the Malzahar carry or Kogmaw carry depending on what items you get, and then go to the late game for Kai'Sa 2-star because Kai'Sa can be a crank. Kai'Sa likes Jeweled Gauntlet, so she uses some of the Malzahar items. She likes Rage Blade, so she uses some of the Kogmaw items. So you could transition into her pretty easily if you happen to magically get her 2-star, which is a little more often than you would think. But my favorite version is the Malzahar one. Lots of different items work on him. Blue buff Shojin, Jeweled Gauntlet, Archangels, Morello, even like a hat is good. It depends on what like your mutant buff is. Even like Hextech Gunblade Hand of Justice works great on Malzahar. But yeah, pretty solid comp. Metamorphosis and Voracious Appetite are probably the best. One trick is if you get Voracious Appetite, that's the one where mutants grow stronger every time an ally dies. You could get stuff like Phony Frontline and build like ZZ Rot portals to get more like procs of the Voracious Appetite buff, which is pretty interesting and fun to do. So on to the next build, we have the Innovators. Innovators, you just go for Dragon. If you do not get the 7 Innovator build, you want to drop the Innovators in the late game and only use 5 Innovator in the mid game. And the reason behind that is because you run a lot of like crappy units when you play Innovator, like Ezreal and Heimerdinger and Singed. When they're not itemized and if it's not early game, they're pretty trash. They do nothing for your team. So you want to get rid of those guys and play actual units instead. So you could play Innovators in the start, but that does not mean you go Innovators the rest of the game unless you get Innovator augments, which allow you to get to 7 Innovator, because the Dragon is super, super strong. And then you just pair this comp with whatever carries you could get your hands on. I like Jhin the most. Jhin plus Orianna is a good combo. Sorry, Orianna carries another option, but you could pair Jhin with like snipers. You can pair Orianna with pretty much anything. You could even go like, there's some Seraphine builds that I've seen work pretty well. You put like Shojin, Rageblade, Morello on her, and sometimes she can carry. I don't like it in this meta, but perhaps in the future that will see more play. So on to the next build, we have Protector Reroll. Oh, and for the difficulty, like the early game's super easy. It's only like the mid to late game where Innovators get harder because you kind of have to decide whether to drop out of Innovators or keep into them. So hopefully I clear up some confusion there. On to the next build, we have Protector Reroll. This used to be called Garen Reroll, but I'm changing it because now people are itemizing Kassadin instead of Garen. Garen got nerfed a little bit. Kassadin is just like the better tank now. And then you do Kogmaw carry because he has both Twin Shot and the Sniper buff with the Caitlyn and Graves. So you reroll for these guys at level 5, all the 1 cost, and then you go level 6, reroll for Kogmaw, and then just level up, add in mutants. You could stay level 6, you don't need to go higher. But like, if you get certain augments or if you get certain champion drops or you 3-star stuff really quickly, like you could go ahead and push levels. The only mandatory item is the Gwynsu's Rageblade on Kogmaw. That's like by far his best item. And then just any 3 generic tank items on Kassadin. The ones you see in front of you are my favorite. It is the Redemption, the Bramble, and the Warmogs, but honestly, anything works. It just depends on what you get that game. Next build we have is like very similar. It just is the same exact build, but with Garen tanking and Katarina carry. But you don't really want to do this because Katarina is going to be contested. So it's going to be hard to get Katarina 3-star. However, if you get Protector Spatula, it won't matter. You'll kill everyone with Katarina and she won't die. If you have like the 3-star protectors, and even with like a 2-star Katarina with Protector Spat, she still does pretty well into the late game. It'll allow you to push levels really quickly, or like maybe you have so much gold that you're able to get Cat 3-star anyways. Onto the B tier now. Sniper MF, I mean, you get countered by the assassins with this build, so it's a little risky. You might have to corner her in some matchups if you're facing a ton of assassins, but you also have to be careful of blitz hooks. So snipers are just in a weird spot right now, but you essentially just reroll level 7 for Misfortune. You could also do a stabilization on 3-2 at level 6 if you lost streaked during stage 2. And in case I'm speaking like a different language to you guys, I will like make a leveling guide, hopefully posting it soon. So do look out for that if what I'm saying isn't making any sense. So if that is you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel down below to get notifications on when that guide comes out. Next up, we have the 7 Syndicate build. Turbo, super late game, strong powerhouse type of comp. It revolves around a Kali carry plus any legendary, like any random legendary will do. And you abuse like the TF Darius early game to try to get there. So what happens is Darius 2-star is just the best thing in the world because like he just solos so many of the early game teams with one item. So you put like Ionic Spark on him, Redemption on him, Warmogs on him, Bramble on him, like any tank item that you could get in the early game, like Sunfire, he's going to be destroying everyone in the early game for you. So you just like win streak really long, and then hopefully that'll allow you to get to a Kali, and then like another 2-star legendary to try to like really put the game to an end. Like it's risky to go for it because you could only go for it in very specific scenarios, but if you hit it, you're going to be doing fantastically. Next up, we have Yordles. A lot more people have been playing it because Vex is so important in this meta right now, so it's not even the Yordles that are good, it's just Vex that's good. Because Bramble Vex solos all the Katarina players, and if there are like 3 Katarina players in your game, and you have a Vex, like you win 3 out of 7 matchups for free. So that's why the comp is good. It's not because Yordles are good, it's mainly just because Vex is good. But hopefully they buff some of the Yordles. I don't know how they would even do it because you don't want to make them too strong. It's really just Vex that's broken. So any comp that plays Vex, you're going to be doing fine with. But just tank items on her, damage items on either Heimerdinger or Tristana, and you could even make it to Veigar. You could also do the Tristana carry build, which is like Runon's Bloodthirster, and like I think a Rage Blade is pretty decent on her. But fun stuff there if you get the Yordle start because it is a fun comp. I can't, as much as I'm like trashing on it, I love playing it, but it's just not that great compared to all the other options that we have. Socialite Sion down to C tier. I mean, yeah, it's just not the same anymore. So I don't recommend playing it, but if you really, really like this comp, and if you're like not pushing for like top 100 or something like that, like play this, I guess. But I just don't recommend it. Same with every other comp that I haven't mentioned here. There might be like 1 or 2 exceptions, but I feel like I did cover most of the comps that are good in this patch. So Carousel Priority, it didn't really change from last week. I still like Belt and Chain Start. Maybe Chain is the best item because you want Bramble Vest on like half the comps right now. Glove is really good if you're going for Katarina, so Glove is high. Bow's still good for Urgot, Yone, Trundle. Sword obviously still has a lot of uses for IE, JG, those types of stuff, but you'd rather have Glove. But if you can't get that, Sword's fine. Yeah, that is going to be pretty much it. I did update the item quadrant, but I don't think the quadrant's as important as like everything else you see in the guide before. But going back up to the top, just to sum up, we have the Assassins. Katarina, play her as much as you can if you get decent starts for her. Like as much as you can for sure. You don't have to get Cat 3. You could go like push levels instead. Arcanists, the main counter. Snipers, just like I think this is the best 4-cost carry, but the other 2, Yone and Urgot, are still pretty good as well. Trundle reroll. If you get like a great Trundle reroll start, go for it, but if not, just forget about it. And then in the A tier, we have Samira, Mutant Malzahar. Depends on the mutant buff, but even if you get a bad mutant buff, you could still play it if you get like a lot of Malzahars. Innovator, only good with 7. Protector reroll. If you like reroll, that's like a go-to. And then in the B and C tiers, like don't play these that much because they're very situational. So just like stick to the A and S tiers because we got like so many options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 options in the S and A tier, guys. Come on, you do not need to be playing B tier comps. I'm not saying never play it. I'm not saying they're bad. A lot of people are like, oh, dude, why do you think this comp sucks? Like, I did well with it. In some games you can, but you can't argue that, like, Tristana reroll is better than Katarina, you know? Like, there are just so many other options right now that, like, just, if you want to climb, just stick to the S and A tier. If you want to have fun, play whatever you want. It's not my LP, it is your LP, so go wild with that if you so choose. But yeah, that's going to be it from me today. I will be going on vacation, so I might not update it next week, which probably would be the first time I didn't in, like, since I started YouTube. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.